Well, greetings. I'm Rick Harris, Professor of Economics and Finance, and I was asked to tell you a little bit about the current events involving Brexit. The European Union, no longer 28, but now 27 countries, including Ireland, began as the European Coal and Steel Community, the ECSC, with the Treaty of Paris in 1952. That was a free trade agreement amongst Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, which quadrupled output and ultimately therefore was expanded to 28 nations and essentially all the commerce of Europe. The EU's development culminated in the consolidation of European financial policy in a monetary union, creating the euro in 1999. The UK rejected the original ECSC as a supranational authority. Not very good sounding, right? And rejected the Euro Monetary Union as a threat to London's dominance as a financial hub, and also because the British business cycle was not highly correlated with that of Europe. Quite the opposite was true of Ireland, however, hence their opposite decision. Ireland has prospered enormously from the lowering of all trade barriers with Europe, as well as from huge EU industrial subsidies to their infrastructure, to their ports, highways, and airports. So what's ahead for the Brits now that they have exited the EU? The current answer is TBD, yet to be negotiated over the next 10 months. The probable answer is a status closely akin to that of Switzerland, which is a member of the European Free Trade Agreement with few tariff or trade barriers, but it is not a member of the European Economic Agreement. More on that in a moment. The first part of that role that Switzerland plays today is a good news for Britain, indeed, since 54% of British imports come from Europe, 54, and their cost of living would rise very quickly, and the economy would inevitably slow down if trade barriers or tariffs were to reemerge. Think of what has been happening in the U.S. the last 2 years. Trump's tariffs and tariff uncertainty have increased consumer prices and stalled business investment, slowing the U.S. GDP growth from 3% in 2017 down to 2% now. But for the parliamentary system of England, Boris Johnson's administration might adopt that same mercantilist strategy as a negotiating ploy with the EU. A recent book by Thomas Philippon, called The Great Reversal, has argued that Europe now has more competitive markets than the U.S., with less disrupted and more efficient supply chains, and therefore more effective export industries than the U.S. That same fate might befall the UK if it pursues mercantilist strategy, raising tariffs in an ill-advised attempt to protect home industries, especially if it selected those home industries by preferential treatment and cronyism. Finally, what does this new status for the UK imply about parallel importing, a peculiarly European institution that we studied in my managerial economics course and in Chuck Kennedy's international business courses? Let me tell you a little bit about parallel importing and what's going to happen. When EU manufacturers of BMW motorcycles, for example, export to other EU countries, they do not, quote, exhaust their copyright, trademark, or patent protection. As a result, they can price in Bulgaria, an EU member state, at much lower price points than their products sell in Germany or France. They can do this without running the risk that arbitrageurs will buy in Bulgaria and backship at reduced prices into Germany. Those parallel imports, if unauthorized by the parent EU manufacturer, are prohibited in Europe and vigorously prosecuted. The UK's manufacturers will lose this parallel import protection now that Brexit has occurred. Currently, Brits ride the ferries to Belgium to purchase wines and spirits and a motorcycle for their own use. Post-Brexit, commercial arbitrageurs will return from those purchase trips with truckloads of wines, spirits, Norton motorcycles, and GlaxoSmithKline pharmaceuticals. Those goods, will be resold in England at discount prices relative to their current prices. So Norton and GSK can, of course, end this back shipment of parallel imports sold at discounted prices by raising their prices abroad to match their prices at home. But since price elasticities are widely divergent across the EU countries, differential prices are the profit-maximizing solution, not identical prices. These and other significant business challenges will now arise in England.